African captain locks man in a room thinking he's a playboy, but he's an Arab executive surgeon. She thought she was teaching a spoiled man a lesson. He had landed in her remote village with flashy shoes, an arrogant smile, and zero patience. So she locked him in a medical supply room overnight, just to humble him. But the next morning, when she opened the door, she found him treating a dying child with nothing but string, a blade, and his bare hands. What she didn't know was that this so-called playboy wasn't just another rich tourist. He was a world-renowned Arab trauma surgeon on a mission he never chose, until fate threw them together. Their story begins with anger, judgment, and pride, but what happens next will leave you stunned. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. It helps us keep telling powerful stories like this one, based on compassion, courage, and the human heart. Let me know when you're ready for Chapter 1. It will begin with the African captain's first explosive encounter with the man she wrongly judged. Captain Amakintu had no time for entitled men. Not in her village, not in her clinic, not after everything she'd built from dust and discipline in a remote corner of Mali. Her boots pounded on the concrete floor of the outpost as she marched toward the storage room, her uniform damp with sweat, her jaw locked in frustration. He had arrived unannounced. A sleek black helicopter had cut through the desert sky the day before, landing beside the only functioning health outpost in the district. She'd rushed out, expecting a government official. What she got was a man in designer sunglasses, tailored slacks, and a smug smirk that looked like it had never known hunger or heat. Who drops into an aid zone looking like a GQ cover? She muttered, clenching her fists as she remembered the moment. He had refused water from a cup, asked for bottled Perrier, and then had the nerve to question her credentials. The nerve. Ama had trained for 8 years in Dakar. She ran the only functioning trauma response center for 300 miles. And now this man, this tourist with a watch worth more than her clinic's budget, was telling her the wound care techniques were inefficient. So last night, after he complained about the heat, the food, and her attitude, she made a decision. "You can sleep in the supply room," she had said coldly. "Plenty of medical boxes to cushion your ego." And then she locked the door. It wasn't out of cruelty. It was her protest. A lesson. Maybe a few hours sweating alone would remind him he wasn't in a luxury resort. But that morning, when she opened the door, nothing could have prepared her for what she saw. The man, shirt off, his arms streaked with blood, was crouched beside a young boy on the floor. Gauze and tubing were scattered everywhere. A makeshift IV was taped to the wall with surgical tape. And the boy, he was breathing again. "What the hell happened?" she demanded, stepping in. The man didn't even look at her. His eyes were focused, his hands steady. He collapsed outside the clinic around 4 a.m. I heard him through the window. "You treated him?" Her voice cracked. "I'm a trauma surgeon," he said without emotion. "Cardiothoracic. London, Dubai, Riyadh, wherever they need me. I was scheduled to operate in Bamako, but rerouted here when I heard your center needed blood refrigeration repairs." Amma's mouth went dry. She felt something twist in her gut. "You're the donor from the letter?" He finally looked up. Sweat beaded on his brow, but his eyes, dark, deep, and tired, were burning with something else. "I'm not here for charity," he said. "I'm here because my mother was born in this village. She died during childbirth. No clinic, no doctor. I was raised by a father who made millions fixing bodies. Now I spend half my year trying to save the ones we forget." Amma backed up slowly. Everything she believed about this man crumbled. Her anger turned to heat in her chest, but this time not from pride, from shame. The boy stirred on the ground, his small hand gripping the man's wrist. "His name's Geneba," the surgeon said softly. "Malaria, secondary infection. I didn't have everything I needed, but he's going to make it." Amma's voice was barely a whisper. "What's your name?" He looked up again, this time with a slight smile. Not smug, but tired, human. "Amir. Dr. Amir al-Rashid." She stood there, unable to speak. Everything had changed. And what she didn't know was that this moment, this accidental imprisonment, would be the beginning of the most important connection of her life. Captain Amma stood in the doorway of the clinic at sunrise, watching the man she had locked in a supply room 2 nights ago pump water with a nurse as if he had been born here. His dress shirt was rolled up to the elbows, the fine stitching now stained with dust and sweat. His movements were methodical, practiced, not like someone trying to impress, like someone who didn't care who was watching. She stepped closer. "You're up early," she said, arms folded across her chest. Amir didn't turn, didn't sleep, too many thoughts, and the nurse said the gauze needed rinsing. Amma narrowed her eyes. "Doctors don't usually do laundry." "I'm not a usual doctor." "No," she said, slower now. "You're a surgeon with a 7-figure bank account, who just happens to show up in a dying clinic, and ends up saving a boy's life with a box cutter and a rubber tube." That made him pause. He looked over at her, sweat glistening along his temple. "I didn't come here to be noticed. I came here because your last fridge broke, and the vaccines in it spoiled. The ministry sent out a call. No one answered. I did." Amma took a breath. "I didn't know who you were." He smiled faintly. "You made that clear when you locked me in." She flinched. He didn't say it with anger, just fact, like a line in a patient file. She wanted to apologize, but something in her resisted. Her whole life had been built on standing firm, especially in the face of men who underestimated her, who strutted through villages in clean boots with promises that never touched the ground. But Amir was different, and the more she watched him, the less she understood what he was doing here. "You could have taken a hotel in Bamako," she said. "You could have donated from afar." Amir sat on the stone edge of the pump, wiping his hands on a towel. "You ever have a nightmare so vivid you can't forget it, even after 30 years? She didn't answer. His voice had changed. "When I was 5, I used to dream I was trapped in a hot room. My mother was calling from outside, but I couldn't get out. Later, I learned she died giving birth to me. In a place like this, no sterile tools, no light. She bled out on a mat in a hut." Amma's eyes dropped. The breeze picked up slightly, carrying with it the sounds of children playing near the old truck bed outside. "My father was rich," Amir continued. "An oil man turned real estate shark, but he couldn't talk about her, so I made her my mission. Every year I take 3 months off surgery to go where she might have lived, where women like her still die. And here I thought you were just a playboy," Amma said quietly. He glanced at her, something sad flickering behind his dark eyes. "It's not the first time someone thought that. I don't blame you." She looked at him, really looked this time. The tailored clothes, the quiet confidence. She'd mistaken them for arrogance. But they weren't shields. They were habits. Armor he wore, so no one could see the guilt underneath. A voice called out from the clinic, one of the nurses. "Jenaba's awake again," she shouted. Amir stood immediately, already halfway across the courtyard before Amma moved. She followed him inside. The boy lay on a thin mattress, propped up by rolled blankets. He smiled weakly at the sight of Amir, reaching out a small hand. The man knelt, gently touching the boy's forehead. "His fever's lower," Amir said, checking the IV. "Pulse steady." Amma stood across from him. "You saved him." "We saved him," he replied, meeting her eyes. "Your team never gave up." There was silence between them, the kind that comes when two people begin to see each other not as assumptions, but as something deeper, something real. That night, Amma left the door to the supply room unlocked. And Amir never went back to the hotel in Bamako. The desert winds were stronger that day, sweeping fine sand across the clinic's walls and painting the sky in a copper haze. Patients still lined the benches outside, wrapped in cotton scarves, clutching numbers written on torn paper. Inside, the energy buzzed with quiet determination, until the rumble of tires broke through the wind. Amma stepped out into the courtyard. A black SUV rolled up the dirt path, its tinted windows dusted from the drive. A small gold emblem on the license plate gleamed faintly. Royal Medical Trust. She narrowed her eyes. The car stopped. The driver, a thin man in a grey suit and mirrored sunglasses, stepped out first. Then came another figure, tall, striking, and dressed in a linen suit so clean it looked like it had never known real sunlight. His polished leather shoes crunched against the gravel as he approached. Dr. Al-Rashid, the man called, opening his arms with a rehearsed smile. Your father sent me. Amr felt the shift in energy before Amir even came into view. He emerged from the clinic with a bandage in one hand, confusion in his eyes. Zahir, he said cautiously. The man grinned wider. Still playing dessert doctor, I see. Amr watched Amir's face harden. Why are you here? Zahir stepped forward. Your father heard rumors that you cancelled your speaking engagement in Geneva, that you were here, in this place. He wants you back, in London. There's a new facility opening, media coverage, important donors. I'm not going, Amir said flatly. Don't be ridiculous. You're the face of his global foundation. You have obligations, cameras, contracts, and a reputation that's getting muddy the longer you stay off the grid. Amr's jaw tensed. Zahir finally noticed her. He gave a polite nod. You must be Captain Kintu. I've read your reports. Impressive work, under the circumstances. She didn't smile. We're doing fine, without your cameras. Zahir's smirk faltered. Amir stepped between them. I didn't ask for this visit. Your father did, Zahir said. And you know how he gets. You can disappear from surgeries, from your condo, even from the board. But not from him. Amir turned his back and walked toward the shade, jaw clenched. Amr followed after a beat. Inside the storage room, now half turned into a workspace, he paced, rubbing the back of his neck. You okay? She asked softly. He shook his head. My father's empire is built on legacy, image. I was the golden son with a scalpel. When I left the hospital in Riyadh and came here, I didn't just embarrass him. I betrayed the narrative. You mean saving kids instead of posing for interviews? He chuckled darkly. To him, both are performances. He doesn't understand why I keep coming back to villages like this, why I care. Amr leaned against the wall. Maybe because your mother died in one. He looked at her, surprised. You remembered that. I remember what matters. Their eyes held for a moment. Outside, the wind howled louder. Zahir won't leave, Amir muttered. He'll call my father. My phone's already pinging with messages. Eventually, they'll pressure me into returning. Or worse, start donating here to claim credit and reshape everything. Amr's mouth tightened. Let me talk to him. What? She pushed off the wall. He's used to polite resistance. What he needs is truth, and I don't mind being the one to give it to him. Before he could argue, she was already out the door. Amr found Zahir under the awning, sipping water from a bottle he'd brought himself. Dr. Al-Rashid is needed here, she said calmly. You can tell his father that, or I will. Zahir raised an eyebrow. You think you're protecting him? No, she said. I'm giving him room to decide who he wants to be, not what someone rich and powerful expects him to be. Zahir stared for a beat, then smiled faintly. "You're strong-willed," he said. "No wonder he looks at you the way he does." Amma blinked. The way he... But Zahir had already turned, pulling out his phone. "I'll let the old man know," he said. "But don't think this is over." The SUV disappeared into the desert less than an hour later, and Amma, standing on the roof at sunset, watched Amir below, teaching a young girl how to use a stethoscope. She wasn't sure what was growing between them, but it was real, and it was only just beginning. It started with a scream. Amma was in the hallway of the clinic, reviewing medical reports from a village 10 kilometers away, when the sound cut through the air like a blade. Her head snapped up. 2 nurses rushed past her toward the entrance, and instinct kicked in. She bolted after them. Outside, a truck had skidded to a stop, its front tires buried in the red sand. A woman leapt from the passenger side, yelling frantically in Bambara. In the back of the truck lay a teenage boy, blood pouring from a gash in his stomach, his skin already pale from the loss. "Stab wound," Amma muttered, climbing up into the truck bed to examine him. "Deep, maybe a fight." "His name is Kofi," the woman cried. "A gang attacked him on the road." Amma waved for the stretcher. "Get him to the trauma bay, now." As the nurses hauled the boy into the clinic, she turned to see Amir already scrubbing in, his eyes scanning the boy's vitals. His hands moved with rapid precision, checking pulse, breathing, responsiveness. "He's crashing," Amir said grimly. "BP is falling fast. We need blood." Amma nodded. "We've got half a unit of O negative from the last drive." "It won't be enough." They locked eyes. The boy was tall, lean. He'd already bled through the makeshift bandages. Amma's stomach twisted. "I'm O negative. Take mine." But Amir was already shaking his head. "So am I." She blinked. "You?" He nodded. "Started banking my own years ago, for places like this." He didn't wait. In a blur, he inserted the needle into his own arm, while a nurse prepped the transfusion bag. Amma watched, stunned, as the red liquid flowed. He didn't flinch, didn't even blink. Minutes later, he was in surgery, hands covered in blood, his and Kofi's. He worked in silence, cutting and suturing, calling out for suction and irrigation. The boy's heart stopped once, twice. But Amir brought him back. 2 hours later, the boy was alive. Barely. Amma found him sitting alone in the hallway afterward, his shirt open, a line of sweat tracing down his chest. He looked pale, a little unsteady. "You just gave nearly a pint," she said, crouching in front of him. "Then spent 2 hours saving him." He gave a tired smile. "Wasn't the first time. Won't be the last." Amma sat beside him. For the first time, she didn't see the man she had judged. She saw something else, something deeper, a fire that didn't burn out, a quiet, constant defiance of everything comfortable. "I've seen a lot of men talk," she said softly. "You don't. You just do." Amir leaned his head back against the wall. "That boy, he reminded me of my little brother, Kareem. He died when I was 9, infection. We were in Morocco, rich villa, private doctors. Still didn't make it." Amma didn't speak. She just let him breathe. "Every time I save one," he whispered, "I feel like I'm trying to save him again, like I'm still that boy, helpless, watching my brother turn cold." Her chest tightened. "You don't have to carry that alone." "I do," he said, "because my father never did. He buried it under money. I chose something else." He turned his head toward her, eyes glassy but strong. "You were willing to give your blood for that boy," he said, "even after what I put you through." Amma gave a small laugh. "You didn't put me through anything. I judged you too fast. Locked you in a room because I thought you were just another man who thinks the world belongs to him. And now? Now I think you're a man trying to give something back." A silence settled between them, filled only by the buzz of clinic lights. Then Amir reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out a folded photo. It was old, faded. A woman with dark eyes sat under a palm tree, holding a baby on her lap, a younger version of him. No smile, just wide, searching eyes. "She was 22, he said. "Her name was Layla. I've never forgotten her face." Amma stared at the photo. "She died in a room without power, without supplies, without help," he continued. "Every life I save in places like this, I think she sees it. Somewhere." Amma took a breath. "Then she'd be proud today." Amir looked at her, and for a moment, no pain, no past, just two souls in the eye of the storm. But outside, the desert wind was rising again, and something was coming that neither of them could see. The wind hit hard that evening, blowing sand through cracks in the clinic walls and turning the courtyard into a golden blur. Amma stood at the edge of the roof, arms crossed tightly over her chest, watching as the horizon disappeared behind a wall of dust. Storms like this came with no warning, and always brought something. This time, it was a man. He appeared just after dusk, staggering out of the storm like a ghost reborn. Thin, gaunt, dressed in a faded military jacket 2 sizes too big, with a deep scar along his jawline. But it wasn't the uniform or the limp that made Amma freeze. It was his eyes. "Ibrahim," she whispered. Amir appeared at her side, sensing the change in her breathing. "Who is he?" Amma's voice was flat. "My brother." By the time they reached the front gate, Ibrahim was already collapsing into one of the clinic chairs, coughing violently, sand clinging to his lashes. "I thought you were dead," Amma said, kneeling beside him. "I was close," he rasped. Escaped a militia camp 3 weeks ago. Heard you ran this place. Thought maybe it was time I stopped running too. She stared at him, her hands hovering inches from his chest. He looked like a skeleton wrapped in skin, broken and worn, but alive. You vanished 7 years ago, she whispered. No letters, no word. Ibrahim nodded slowly. I had debts, made enemies, took a job guarding cargo in the north. Things went wrong. Amir approached quietly. We need to get him hydrated and scan for internal trauma. Amma looked back at him, something unreadable in her eyes. He's a former soldier, knows how to survive. But her voice trembled. They brought him inside, hooked up fluids, monitored his breathing. Amir worked silently, but his gaze kept flicking between Ibrahim and Amma, reading the space between them. Later, when the lights dimmed and most patients were asleep, Amir found Amma sitting alone in the hallway, her shoulders slumped, fingers twisted in her lap. You okay? He asked gently. She looked up, eyes shining. He was everything to me. When our parents died, he raised me, taught me how to shoot, how to stand my ground, and then one day, he just disappeared. Now he's back. Amma let out a humorless laugh. Just in time to remind me I've still got wounds I never stitched. Amir sat beside her. We all do. Silence stretched between them. He won't stay, she said. I know him. He's not made for stillness. He'll heal and then vanish again, and I'll be left wondering why I let him in. You don't know that. Amma turned to him. Why are you really here, Amir? Not the donor story, the press version. Why did you choose this village, out of all the places? He hesitated. Then slowly he reached into his back pocket and pulled out a folded map, yellowed, creased. He opened it to reveal a tiny red circle on a region near the river. My mother's death certificate lists this place, he said, but the hospital, if you can call it that, never filed her records properly. I came to find the room where she died. The midwife who might have held her hand. Anything. Amma stared at the map. She died 30 years ago, she said. I know, Amir replied. But healing doesn't care about time. She looked at him then, not as the man she'd judged, or the surgeon she'd come to trust, but as someone lost in his own way, searching for meaning in the ruins of the past. But before she could speak, a door creaked down the hall. It was Ibrahim. He limped toward them, holding something. A folded photo. It was old, nearly torn down the center. I found this in a box near the river 2 years ago, he said softly, handing it to Amir. Didn't know why I kept it. Amma watched as Amir unfolded the paper. It was a woman, sitting on a mat. Dark eyes, soft smile, baby wrapped in cloth. His breath caught. "That's her," he whispered. Ibrahim nodded. Locals said she was kind, helped everyone, even when she was in pain. Amir's hands trembled. Amma stood, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. In the middle of a sandstorm, in a country both cruel and beautiful, two people, once strangers, now intertwined, found pieces of themselves in each other's past, and neither knew what the next storm would bring. The storm did not pass. It grew. By dawn, the sky was a bruised gray, and the air stung with powdered sand. Sheets had been taped over windows, and staff moved like ghosts through the dim halls of the clinic. The generator coughed, flickered, then failed entirely. By noon, the satellite phone had gone dead too. Amma stood at the front door, gripping a clipboard with trembling fingers. Evacuation orders had come through the night before. Transport trucks would arrive by sunset to take the most critical patients south, away from the storm's path. But there were too many names, too few seats. Amir was in the pharmacy room, packing emergency supplies into crates. His hands moved quickly, but his face was drawn. They hadn't spoken since Ibrahim gave him the photo. Amma finally entered the room. "We have 10 hours, 26 patients, only 2 trucks." He nodded. "Take the children, the elderly, the ones with open wounds." She paused. "What about you?" He looked up. "I stay." Amma stared at him. "You'll be trapped here. No power, no backup." He smiled faintly. "So will you." She said nothing. Then, "We could go. Together. You've done your part here. And I've seen what you carry. Maybe it's time to let it rest." Amir folded the last blanket into a crate. "My mother died because there wasn't a doctor here. I won't leave now, not when others might die too." Amma stepped closer. Her voice broke. "Neither will I." A beat of silence. Then Amir whispered, "So we stay together." When the trucks arrived, chaos took over. Children cried. Nurses shouted names. Ibrahim helped carry patients, despite his limp, despite Amma's protests. He turned once, locking eyes with his sister, and gave a short nod, like an apology too big for words. By sundown, the trucks rolled away, and Amma and Amir stood alone in the silence, surrounded by the storm. Wind howled through broken windows. The clinic lights stayed off, and inside 2 people lit candles and waited. The storm lasted 3 days. When it finally broke, the sky returned in fragments, sunlight piercing through the dust like grace. The air smelled of earth and old wounds. In the silence that followed, the village felt reborn. Inside the clinic, Amma and Amir sat side by side on the floor, sharing a tin cup of strong tea, their clothes wrinkled, eyes tired but alive. Neither spoke for a long time. And then Amir whispered, "I think I found what I was looking for." Amma turned. What was it? "Not a place, not even my mother's story," he said. "Just someone who understands why I can't leave." Amma smiled, small and honest. "Then stay." He didn't answer. He didn't need to, because some people come looking for answers and stay because they find home. In a forgotten village, far from wealth and headlines, a billionaire Arab surgeon and a soldier-turned-healer chose what mattered most. Not legacy, but love. And for once, the world outside didn't matter.